Hello everyone, this is Juan Martin, and today I am going to talk about the paper called Transforming Communities Through Sport, Critical Pedagogy and Sport for Development by Ramón Spaaij, Oxford and Ruth Jeanes. First, I have to say that this paper was inspired by a specific question, which is, does SDP programs foster or impede transformative actions? And this is well based on a discussion in the field of sociology of sport. While some scholars have sought to identify the social benefits of SDP programs and the processes or mechanism that produce these benefits, others articulate a critical perspective on sport as an interventionist tool that problematizes commonly held assumptions concerning SDP as a public good. As you can see, this paper aims to clarify this question by analyzing two cases, one in Cameroon and another in Kenya. Also, this research is inspired because there has been just a little effort to connect critical pedagogy and in general pedagogy used in SDP programs. So the authors are trying to start a discussion in the field of pedagogy and the SDP programs to connect these two concepts. In short, the article aims to address this lacuna by analyzing SDP programs through the lens of critical pedagogy with a particular focus on transformative action and how it may be fostered. In that sense, the theoretical framework used by the authors is based on the critical pedagogy by Paulo Freire. Freire was a Brazilian educator and philosopher who taught the education as an exercise of freedom, as an act of knowing, and as a critical approach to reality. He said that education should aim both at examining the causes of unjust social relations and at strengthening collective efforts for democratic change. Given this definition of education, Freire's thinking has both a historical context and a praxis base. First, it was originated in the Latin American liberation movement, and secondly, Freire taught the education rooted in praxis as a process of reflection and action in order to transform the world. And to do that, to transform the world, Freire's pedagogy has some steps which I'm going to tell you briefly. First, there is a problem posing in which the transformative education dialogues with the problems with the problems in the society. Then the educators cannot just run through a series of predetermined steps with students and expect this will lead to transformative action. In the contrary, they should make an effort to challenge and to reshape the dominant power relations that exist in society. And finally, the educators have to move beyond the goal of just knowledge. They must go further and to make efforts to ultimately constitute an attempt to transform the society. And in this specific point, SDP programs are quite important and really connect to the Freire's theory. And as we are going to see later in the presentation, the critical pedagogy clearly goes beyond the technical training alone. It involves something more, something bigger, something which includes social, political, and economical transformation. Okay, now we can move to the first case, based in Cameroon, in the remote region of Adamawa, Cameroon, and this specific program is run by a local NGO, and it has some educational components and some empowerment of women. The educational components, for example, are some classes on sexual health and leadership, some tournaments, which includes some other classes and so on, and the empowerment of women becomes, in a way, to transform the way of thinking of the girls. For instance, all the referees are males. They run tournaments on dates such as the International Women's Day Parade and so on. So this is important. They are trying to change the set of mind of these young girls in Cameroon, and most importantly, is run by a local NGO, not by an international NGO. The second case is that of Kenya, and this is kind of similar, but involves three SDP programs, because Kenya is the heart of SDP movement, and these three programs cumulatively includes more than 10,000 young women. This specific case of Kenya involves sexual violence in those communities. So these SDP programs also include support system and legal advice for the young ladies. And this is quite important. The support system also includes photograph classes, libraries, counselors, and so on. This is quite important. And sorry for the typos. Those are caused by my PowerPoint version, which is in Spanish. Sorry for that. In both cases, but more in the last one, I mean in the Kenyan case, they use peer education model, which means that the young ladies are trained by another young ladies, and by people living in the community, by people they have been knowing their whole lives, and this is quite important, and there is a remarkable component in the Freirean critical pedagogy. For example, we have here a testimonial, and I'm gonna read it. One day, when I sat among young people in my church, I realized that some of the seeds of hope will never germinate because of people like lack of information. Nobody is facilitating sessions about reproductive health to young people in church. At the end of the sermon, I was sure that there was a need for reproductive health sessions because I saw that a number of 16-year-olds had children. I'm interested in talking to young people about sexual reproductive health. I joined the organization in 2010 as a player. I was trained as a peer educator and started working as assistant health coordinator in 2012. As we can see, this is pretty important for young ladies, because they learn how to think critically, but also they learn how to involve into their community and how to improve it. And peer education is pretty important because it aims to reach the social demographic of citizens through methods of respect, love, understanding, relationship building, and so on. And as I was saying previously, Freirean model involves much more than just technical knowledge. As you can see here, it is involved some emotions, some relationships building, and so on. Then we have another component of Paulo Freire's critical pedagogy, and this is the community formation. This is also really important because it helps the young people to connect to others, to discuss with others, to see beyond their local communities. As an example of this, I will say that these cases have collective discussions. They also have regional tournaments and support networks. This is pretty important because in these processes, the young ladies, they take conscious of what are they doing, where are they, how can they improve their lives and their communities' lives. And this is important because, in short, can be interpreted as a conscious racing. This is quite important, and it is another component of the Freirean model. However, this good news I have been telling you, there are also constraints to transformative actions because none in this world is perfect. The first is quite evident, is that these SDP programs have not extensive changes because they are limited in capacity because of the lack of resources. They are run by local NGOs who has not a lot of money, who are limited in human resources and so on. Also, just some of them, are reaching other levels. Just some of them reach superior education. Just a small number of them work as a peer educators and so on. So this limits the reaches of the local NGOs. And also there is a paradox between the local agencies and NGOs and the international NGOs. The external funding is required to train educators effectively and to sustain programs for longer periods of time and so on. However, engaging with international development agendas is hard to them because if they receive international funding and so on, they have to adjust themselves to those international NGOs, and in this process, a lot of things are loose. This is a paradox that they live. To conclude, I would say that the authors have a clear response to the primary question, and that is that SDP programs faces a lot of limitations, often related to bigger structure, such as cultural problems, economic issues, international standards, lack of funding, and so on. However, the authors stand out that these small and individual level changes are important, and they should not be, just given away. They are important, and we must remember that. Okay, that was it. Any further questions you have, feel free to ask them in the class, and that was it. Thank you very much.